Well, Herman Cain is just one of several Tea Party favorites in the mix so far for 2012. Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, just mentioned, also expected to announce soon that she's going to run. Congressman Ron Paul, he has already officially thrown his hat into the race. But there are reports of rising tensions between the Tea Party and the Republican establishment, many of whom are apparently trying to woo their own favorites, like the governor of Indiana, Mitch Daniels, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, and current New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Is there really a split? And if there is, could it make it tougher for a Republican to win back the White House in 2012? Joining us now, Adam Geller, a former pollster for Governor Christie, and New York Post columnist Kirsten Powers, who is also a Fox News contributor. It's nice to see both of you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
Good to be here.
So, Adam, let me start with you. Yep. Is there really a split, do you think? And if so, how big is it?
Well, listen, I think that there is a split, and I think it sometimes can be a pretty sizable split. But my advice to the Tea Party folks would be stop whining. This is what we do. This is the primary process. It's hypocritical to put a Tea Party candidate into a primary and criticize the establishments for complaining. So now don't do it in reverse. The more the merrier. Let's get a bunch of candidates in and let them fight it out and then hug it out.
Kirsten, what do you think? I mean, we're so early in the process, and I know that there are a lot of folks out there who would like to talk about a split in the Republican Party. Certainly Democrats would like to highlight a potential civil war there, but do you think it's really going to be a problem when we come down to it?
Well, there's definitely a split. There's no doubt about that. And far be it from me to defend the Tea Party people, but I think that they have a legitimate gripe here. The Republicans have really, paid a lot of lip service to the Tea Party, and I think the Tea Party played a big role in the Republicans, winning the House back, and so I think it's reasonable for them to say, wait a minute, hold on, you're happy to use us to win there, but now you're saying that we're not good enough to run for president. I understand why the establishment wants to find other candidates, but at the same time, I think the Tea Party has a legitimate gripe here.
So, Adam, as someone who was saying the Tea Party should stop whining, what do you think about what Kirsten said?
I disagree with Kirsten. Look, the rank and file choose the nominee. We don't go by activists. We don't go by party bosses. This is the process, period. Now, look, as far as, choosing a candidate who's viable, the Tea Party gets plenty of play in the Republican Party. In 2010, the Tea Party candidate in Delaware, the Tea Party candidate in Nevada, we see how that worked out. The Tea Party gets their opportunities. They can fight it out in the primary. If they win the primary, they're our nominee. Let's see what happens. But, it's not fair to just complain if some people in the party are just looking for all their alternatives. That's how we're going to try and win an election.
So, Kirsten, here's where it gets a little tricky for some of the GOP candidates out there, some of whom are really trying to have it both ways. They're trying to appeal to the establishment, and they're trying to paint themselves as being, that they should be favorable to Tea Partiers alike. So we're talking, I guess, Rick Santorum, Newt Gingrich, to quote Herm Cain. How's that working out for them?
Yeah, but I mean, that's my point, is that you can't on the one hand say, oh, Tea Partiers, we love you and we want your votes, but we don't like your candidates, we think you have bad judgment. I think they have a right to be upset. I don't think Rick Santorum is going to be the candidate. I don't think Newt Gingrich is going to be the candidate. I think the people that they're looking at are the people that you listed, the Chris Christies, or even I've heard Ron Paul, or not Ron Paul, sorry, Paul Ryan, and people like that who they feel are more established, candidates who they're more establishment candidates. Let's face it. And I don't fault the GOP establishment for doing that, but I do think you have to always consider how your base is going to react to something, and it's not unreasonable for them to be unhappy about this.
Adam, what about your former boss, Chris Christie, who loves to tell everybody whenever they ask him if he's running that he's not yet qualified to run for president, which I think is a very sort of creative finesse job on his part. But do you see him being? I think the folks from Iowa are headed to Trenton later on this month to try to change his mind. Are they going to get anywhere?
Well, they're going to try and change his mind. I know the governor pretty well, and he seems like a guy who, when he has his mind made up, he has his mind made up. I obviously wouldn't speak for the governor on this matter, but I would say that personally, I think he would be a phenomenal choice, but that's just me. That's just me speaking as Adam Geller, not as anybody else. Look, I think he's terrific, but I think that there are a lot of great people who can not only win the base, but reach over and win those independent, moderate voters. And that's really the balance that any candidate ultimately is going to have to walk.
And I guess that those candidates, Kirsten, who are very closely aligned with the Tea Party, might have a little bit of a problem with some of those moderate, more independent voters out there who, we see every general election cycle. They really hold all the cards, don't they? The independents.
They do, but at the same time, they were able to, to basically win back the House and got a lot of those independents. So, I think that there's always the tension between, are you going to stick to what you say your values are, that you go out and you talk about all the time, or are you going to pander to people? Now, as anybody who works in politics will say, you have to pander to people, but don't be surprised when the base gets upset.
Yeah.
When people are going out and saying, oh, this is what we really stand for, but by the way, we don't want the people who really stand for that. We want somebody different.
By the way, I disagree with Kirsten on this particular issue. Look, it's very possible to win the Republican base and win the independents without pandering to anybody. President Obama won independents by 8 points in 2008. His approval rating among independents is 40%. What you have to understand is that when the middle and their values are the antithesis of what President Obama is doing, you start off in pretty good shape.
But can a Tea Party candidate win the middle, Kirsten? That's my question. Can somebody like Michelle Bachmann, is she going to, if she decides to run, really bring over independent voters?
I don't know, because I really feel like this myth of the middle I don't buy into. Independent voters are not the middle. They're people who swing back and forth between in elections, if anybody's noticed, which makes them very suspect in my mind. How do you go from Barack Obama to, a Republican Congress? I mean, these are people who either aren't paying attention or they just like to vote against who's in power.
They're swing voters. That's what they do.
Right, but the point is, they're not moderates. The idea if they're somehow moderate, a moderate doesn't swing through those extremes necessarily.
I think that they do, Kirsten.
I don't think that they do. I think that there are moderates in either parties, but I think that people need to look more at these independent voters because I find their behavior very bizarre. I just do. I'm sorry.
Well, Kirsten, we're going to have you back on. We'll talk about the bizarre behavior of independent voters because I don't know that I fully agree with you. They are a large voting bloc, and they really do decide things when you come right down to it.
No, we don't disagree on that. They are a large voting bloc, and they have to be catered to. But the issue is, are they truly moderate?
Well, Kirsten, there are some conservative and there are some liberal independent voters, but a large majority of independent voters are in fact moderate. They tried Obama. It's kind of like a coat. They tried him on. They don't like how it fits. They're looking. They're doing some window shopping.
We're going to have to leave it there, guys. Adam Geller, Kirsten Powers. Great to talk to both of you. Very interesting discussion. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thanks.
And thankfully, we're all still here to enjoy
here.
it.
I hope I don't feel a tremor.
Boy, interesting indeed. All right, we're moving on now.